Hi, I'm Kat Elizabeth, a wedding photographer based in San Diego. Today I'm going to be telling you guys all of the different things that could make your wedding run late and what you are going to lose out on if it does. Obviously, nobody really wants their wedding to run late. Most people probably want their wedding to run on time, and nobody wants to just have their timeline they worked so hard on thrown out the window and everything go to chaos. Generally speaking, when the things of your day run late, what you're going to lose out on are your portraits, because portraits are the first thing that are going to get cut. They're not going to cut time off your ceremony. They're not going to cut time off your reception. They're going to cut your portrait time. And that is really sad, not only for me, but for my couples. So that's the one thing that if that's a priority for you, you need to make sure that you structure your timeline with enough padding so that if things do happen to run late, that they don't cut too much into your portraits. When it comes to the reception, what can often happen is if your reception runs late, say your photographer is set to leave at 9 p.m., well now it's 8:55, you haven't even done your parent dances, you haven't done your cake cutting, you haven't done whatever else you want photographed, well they're going to be leaving. So either you're going to tell them, okay, it's fine, we don't have to have those things photographed, or you're going to have to agree to pay overtime. That's just simply a fact. I'll get to talk about this a little bit later on how I handle things and what goes on at least when things run late at my own weddings. Probably the number one thing that causes your wedding to run late is hair and makeup. Every single hair and makeup team that I refer to my couples is always on time, if not early. And that's one of the reasons I refer them. I like to work with punctual people because when hair and makeup runs late, a couple of really bad things can happen. So if you're having a first look, what happens when your hair and makeup runs late, and I'm not talking about 5-10 minutes late because hopefully you have padding for that. I'm talking about when they're 30-40 minutes late, and this happens more often than you would think. You are going to lose out on time for your first look. So if you've scheduled 45 minutes, maybe an hour for your first look and bride and groom portraits, you are going to be losing out on all of that time. And most likely we might be able to skim some time from bridal party portraits, maybe skim some time from family or complete some family after the ceremony, but that's really sad. You don't want to lose out and you don't want to feel rushed during your first look. Now, if you're not having a first look, usually the portraits that are going to get cut are those bridesmaids in their robes with you. Everybody's got champagne or whatever they're doing. Those are portraits that are either going to get cut really, really short or get cut completely. If your wedding is running 30 minutes behind because of hair and makeup, we have to get you to the ceremony. You are really cutting out all of that cute time with your bridesmaids, and that can be a really big deal to some people. To other people, they don't mind. Usually in these situations, there's nothing that I can do. It's out of my control. I try very calmly and very like, hey, hair and makeup artist, no rush, just wondering when things are gonna be done because we need to like get going here soon. And I do that because I don't want to panic the bride. And now if we're starting to run really, really late, I'll start getting more and more firm, like, hey, can we really wrap things up? And sometimes it's the bride that's being, I don't want to say picky, but has a lot of opinions and wants to make little changes, and sometimes that can push that part late. But usually, honestly, it seems like the hair and makeup team just didn't start at the proper time. Start earlier if you need to. I would rather you guys all be sitting around finished, like waiting on me to shoot something else, and then we've got tons of time for cute photos in your robes and getting into your dress and extra portrait time, than to have things really crunched and late. So it's always better to add more timing. The ceremony most of the time will start on time, but there are cases where I've had ceremonies start 10+ minutes late, and most of the time that happens when your guests have not arrived when they are supposed to and taken their seats. Even a 15-minute delay for this ceremony can be a big deal because that then cuts your cocktail hour short. And if you did not do a first look, your cocktail hour is your only time of the day to get your couples portraits, your bridal party portraits, and your family portraits out of the way. So what's going to happen, especially if you have a large bridal party or a large family, that's going to take way more time. You're going to have very few bride and groom photos. Now, some places you can extend that cocktail hour, push it back by however long you were late, or extend it a little bit, but some Some venues are really strict and they have to have you start on time. Make sure if you have a lot of late friends and family, set the ceremony time on the invitation earlier or set an earlier arrival time so that they will be there on time, or at least not 15 or 20 minutes late, because it does happen. Another thing that I have noticed with ceremonies starting late, and this doesn't happen too often, is when the couple does not have a planner, or the couple has a planner who's really inexperienced and not good at like getting things started. You need a planner who can tell people, okay, ceremony starting, line up here. You can't have a passive planner, especially if you've got a bridal party that's rowdy or doesn't listen well or really big group. You need a planner who can be like, okay guys, come on, it's time to move. I need you here, I need you here. And even though they're being really assertive, it's really, really helpful sometimes, because otherwise there are just some groups of people who will not listen. And if they're not lining up, you can't start the ceremony, and it's just chaos. The reception sometimes will start late if the ceremony went late and they push cocktail hour. Sometimes it's okay and it works out and you make up the time and it's not a big deal, but sometimes it can make a really big problem. Sometimes your reception might be running on time, but then the guests are taking way too long to make their way into their seats. They didn't start ushering people in fast enough, or you have a lot of guests, or there's only one entrance and it takes forever, or people are still at the bar. The venue and the planner, they all need to make sure that everybody gets to their seat. So for example, the bar could say, hey guys, we're closing down for just a few minutes. You need to make your way to your seat for the grand entrance, and then you can come back, we'll open back up. That's a really great way to just get people out, because a lot of times people want to hit the bar before they sit down so they have a drink ready to go. But sometimes that can cause a lot of problems, especially if you only have one bar. There's a long line of people. It's going to take them so long to sit down, and the longer they take to sit down, the longer your grand entrance is delayed, and that can push things back by sometimes 20 to 30 minutes. Another crucial thing that I see making receptions run late, in the sense that they've already started but the events are running later themselves, is when you have toast. And if the toasters take forever for their toast, that can be a huge problem. Personally, and a lot of other professionals agree, that 2 to 3 minutes tops is the perfect amount of time for somebody to be giving a toast. I highly recommend that you tell all of your toasters to try to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes. 4 is fine, but anything over 5 minutes is probably going to not only be really boring and drawn out for everybody, but it's not going to have been planned for in your timeline, because you're usually not going to know that they're going to be going on that long until it's happening. So your timeline has put together an allotted amount of time for toast, and when people go way above the average, then that's pushing everything later. Say it's 9 p.m. now, or almost 9, your photographer's supposed to leave at 9, you still haven't had certain events that you want photographed, that can put you in a really big pickle. For my weddings, what I will do is, if I notice it's about 30 minutes before I'm supposed to leave, I'll go ahead and try to talk to the planner or the DJ, get the ball rolling, saying, hey, it's 8:30, I'm supposed to be out of here at 9, we need to make sure we get all these covered before we go. That's the first thing that I will do in order to ensure that my couple gets the events covered they want, and I get myself and my team out on time. Any more than 15 minutes, I think, is definitely fair time for overtime. So what will typically happen is, and I'm not just going to surprise them with this, I'll go up to the couple or I'll talk to the planner and we'll say, hey, we've only got this much time. Do you want these events covered? Are you okay with overtime? That's always a conversation that has to be had, whether it's me with the couple directly or preferably me with the planner, and then the planner talks to the couple, because you have to be fair to your vendors. You can't just expect them to stay late on their own dime. I might stay a little bit later, 5, 10, 15 minutes, but other photographers might be really firm. Some photographers might be okay with staying 30 minutes, and that's just to each their own. But that is a choice that the photographer gets to make. And it's not fair to ask them to stay later for free. You either need to pay overtime, or you need to hurry up, start the event immediately so you get as much covered before they leave, or just say, we're okay with not having that photographed. Now that you guys have heard all of the most common scenarios of things that can run late and what the consequences are, I want to just share a little bit of the bottom line. My first piece of advice is to choose your vendors wisely. Another thing is to choose a really great planner, a planner who is experienced, who knows what they're doing, who can wrangle people, especially if you have multiple different locations. celebrations, you are going to need to have somebody there who can make sure that things are running smoothly. And in the end, even though that is going to cost you more, it's probably going to save you on a lot of different areas of the wedding, whether it's before the wedding and you're planning or during the wedding itself. The next thing is to make sure that you allot for a lot of padding in your wedding. If there's travel, double the travel time. I'm not even joking. You never know what could happen. It might take a long time to wait on your Uber, or there might be some unexpected traffic, or just getting people into the car and getting people out of the car. Double your travel time, okay? If it's a 10-minute drive, leave 20 in there. If it's a holiday weekend, maybe triple it. And that's better to have more padding than to be late and losing out on other things. So for example, I typically will allot for 30 minutes for the bride to get into her gown. This is the time once her hair and makeup is done till the time when I want her finished with her gown. 30 minutes. That gives her time to go to the bathroom. If things come up, we can deal with them, and then plenty of time to get into the dress and take those beautiful photos. Now, sometimes it doesn't take 30 minutes. Sometimes that all happens in 20. Great, we've got 10 extra minutes. We can do cute portraits with her mom or her bridesmaids or just her alone. And sometimes we use up all of that 30 minutes, and I'm so glad that we padded for it. And sometimes we run a little bit late, but thankfully we have that extra padding, so we're not losing too much time for portraits. So it is always better to put more time in there than you think it would take, and listen to your photographer and your planner on the timeline. They are going to know better than you, and I'm not saying that to be a rude thing. I'm saying that as a factual thing. They're going to know from experience that you might need more timing than you think you do, because they've seen it over and over, and they know that if you put a little bit of extra time, it's way safer for the rest of your wedding day. If you have a large bridal party and family, prep them and say, please pay attention, please be on time. Here is when and where you're supposed to be for these portraits. Do not wander off until the photographer has released you. Please listen to them, because the better people listen and they're not wandering, the faster we get those portraits done. So those are my main points on things that you guys can do to ensure that your wedding does not run late. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this gives you some good ideas of things that you can do to prevent your wedding from running late and losing out on all of those beautiful photos that you love. See you guys next time. Bye!